Are you guys Gen Zs?
Yeah.
You look pretty young. You must be a Gen Z.
Yeah,
Are you
I'm
a Gen Z?
2003.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, man, you guys are
2000s.
babies. You guys are
Yeah.
babies. What do we want to? You want to bring?
It's baby
Just change the
heavy.
subject. But there's this reputation going around, from old folks like Kurt and I. Not that we believe it, but some people have been, been sharing feedback that the Gen Z is lazy. Is it true? Are you guys? What do you think? I'm not gonna let you guys answer that first because you're gonna say, of course we're not lazy. We're the hardest working, our hardest workers in all the generations. Kurt, what do you think? You've been managing in the past. You've worked
You
with.
know what?
Speak carefully here, Kurt.
Yes, I
Oh,
know.
yeah.
See, I'm sitting beside you. I think there's a bit of entitlement, to some certain extent. I do think there's hard workers in every group or every class, but I do agree that there is a sense of entitlement to this new age of group of kids or adults, young adults, that sometimes tend to, push the envelope a little bit further than like what I would deem necessary or qualify as, a hardworking person. With that being said, you know what? Time will tell. Right now, my mind is still thinking they're entitled, but maybe over time we'll learn something new from them, right? Like, we'll see.
No, I think more so I feel like in my opinion it's a misclassification of overstimulation. I think we have a lot of, COVID hit and then one after the other. So a lot of these changes and then, now everything else being so much more digitalized and just heavily, I feel like
Were you guys impacted? Like you guys were probably at the age group where COVID impacted your schooling.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah,
COVID,
that sucks.
Yeah.
Like Kurt, you went to
Yeah.
university. I went to university. Have good memories, and I know like a lot of people, especially your generation.
Yeah.
Like I remember there's a few, but there's a whole group of people that started basically their freshman year. Their first
They
year
did.
was basically like it was a lockdown, and second year was lockdown. Or imagine the people that started before COVID. They started in 19 or 18 and 19.
Yeah.
And 2021 were their final years, and they were planning on having a good farewell tour of their school life, and just all of a sudden you're at home.
Yeah, and so kind of going off of what you said and going off of what you said, something that I was really excited to get into this topic. And so for me, COVID happened in my grade 12 year. So in my grade 12 year, we went home for 2 weeks in March and we never came back. And then that kind of lockdown, followed through for the years following that. So, going over and kind of discussing the Gen Z and are they hustlers? Are they lazy? I think what I see there as a member of that population is, a minority of that population that can make a pretty good case that through a few different factors, they've gotten kind of screwed. Where, maybe not the right word, but where,
Just speak your mind. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Where, between 4 years of high school and 4 or 5 years of post-secondary, you've got almost a decade there of real prime years of social development. And with COVID happening, you had 3 or 4 of those 8 years, almost, if not half, get taken away from them. And, they dealt with that and got through that. And then they continued to do what they were supposed to do and what they were told to do, which was, they worked hard in high school and to get into a good college or university in a marketable STEM field. And then they worked hard in university and put themselves into, $80,000-$90,000 of debt to do it and got out of there and went, okay, I'm ready for my job now. Yeah. And kind of went, hey, where'd all the jobs
doesn't
go?
that sound like entitlement? I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, it can, right? It can, but at the end of the day, I also think, if you're
thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, of course, and it's a valid argument to make. But as a member of it, I'd say for that select few, when you work hard for 4 years, 8 years, and you pay 80, 90 grand, you're expecting to get something out of it, and so I think there's a part of that where they kind of have that experience, and they can make that case, and then there's a much larger population that sees that and goes, "Oh yeah, we got screwed." And it's like, well, no, you're not quite the same as these people. You didn't put that effort in. You didn't really do a lot of that stuff. You would kind of be in the position you're in regardless. Whereas there's a smaller group that's done everything they can to better themselves and to heighten themselves and have still not been able to do that.
So I would say you have a point there, a very valid point in terms of, a big chunk of your, prime educational years were taken away because of COVID, lockdowns and whatnot. But say it wasn't, like say there was no COVID and it was just status quo, school was just school as it was. There was no COVID in the world. Guys like us still have the same opinion, right?
Yes.
Like in the sense that, hey, these cats are a little lazy. These cats, are entitled.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'd say you're warranted for having it. I mean, we've got relatively very easy lives compared to the people that came before us, and I can speak to being a member of that population. I know kids who were told from the time they were born to the time they were 25 that they're the best thing since sliced bread, and they get out into the world and they have to realize that they aren't, and they don't really realize that they aren't.
More privileges exist, definitely for this generation.
So basically, parents in your generations would be probably Gen Xers, right? Oh man, it sounds weird, but
Gen X getting in
really.
slightly.
Dinosaur.
Oh yeah, tail end of the baby boom.
Yeah. Meaning, so basically, there are people like us almost, essentially, right? So interesting about softer parents. That should be another topic. Soft parents. We got to talk about that because I think that it is not as like actually we had a topic in one of our earlier podcasts about over loving your kids, how that could be detrimental. I think it could be, right. I think it could be if you just like give them. Never say no and give them everything, but that's a different topic for a different day. However, I would say this is my thoughts on it. I know when I was coming up the ranks. My parents who were the baby boomer generation constantly told us, hey, we're lazy, we don't work hard, we don't grind. And now I don't know if we have that reputation, right? I think we have a reputation of a hard worker. And then we used to say the same things about the millennials, right? Where they were lazy, entitled, they got everything, they're soft, they're this, that. Now, millennials are what? They're ages are
45.
They're entering the
30
30s, 40s.
to 30 plus, right? 30 to 40,
35
right?
plus?
30, say
35 to 50?
no, because Gen X
30.
is
About
probably
30.
about 45 plus. So
Yeah.
say 30 to 45,
Yeah,
right?
2026, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
30 years.
basically, they used to have that reputation. Now they're, being established in the workforce. I think it's more than anything in time. It's just life. Life hits you, and you grow up and pay your bills and responsibilities. So no matter what you're thought of, as we were thought up as Kurt when we were growing up, coming up the ranks. When life hits you and you got to pay bills and you got responsibilities, you have mortgages, you got rent, you got kids, you got. Everyone, they just man up, woman up, right? They aren't gonna rely on their laziness or entitledness.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it gets coupled like that, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think that does kind of happen from generation to generation where the parents deal with things that they're growing up and kind of their problems or difficulties that they have are made easier for the generation after them and the generation after them. So that kind of ceiling and floor of those difficulties continues to get a little better where for their kids, their kids know a better life than they did. So what their kids complain about is, easier than their complaints, but that's something that we don't always maybe recognize is a real good sense of progress. That said, it does lead to that perpetual entitlement, right? Hey, this is what you're complaining about.
In about 20, 30 years,
Yeah.
Gen Alphas or whatever the next generation, I think it is the Alphas or the next ones, you're going to be complaining,
Exactly.
Yeah.
you guys are hustlers, you guys work hard.
I look forward to telling my kids about my uphill walks both ways through the snow to school and doing all that,
Right.
passing down the tradition.
Yeah,
right?
walking down the the subway station and having to go up the stairs, the escalator.
Yeah.
That's usually
Sometimes,
broken.
you had to wait 10 whole minutes for an Uber or something like that. Right?
Oh man, don't get me started.